Cars used to have the weirdest stuff inside them. I'm talking about materials that made absolutely no sense, were dangerous, uncomfortable, or just plain stupid. Today, we're counting down 25 pointless car interior materials that vanished for a reason. And if you stick around until the end, you'll find out which material literally made people sick. But before we dive in, hit that subscribe button because we're bringing you automotive content like this every single week. Let's start with vinyl wood grain trim. Remember when every car from the 70s had that fake wood paneling that looked like someone glued contact paper to the dashboard? This stuff was everywhere. Station wagons, luxury sedans, even economy cars tried to look fancy with it. The problem was it fooled absolutely nobody. It peeled in the heat, bubbled in humidity, and made your car look like a rolling trailer home. Real wood or nothing became the motto, and vinyl wood grain thankfully died a slow death. Next up is loose pile carpeting. Early cars had carpet that wasn't attached to anything. It was literally just thrown on the floor like a rug in your living room. Sounds convenient until you hit the brakes and the entire carpet slides forward and jams under your pedals. Nothing says safe driving like your floor mat trying to kill you. Manufacturers finally figured out that maybe securing the carpet was a good idea. Then we have mohair upholstery. Yes, the fancy fabric made from Angora goat hair. Luxury cars in the 30s and 40s loved this stuff because it screamed expensive. The reality? It attracted every piece of dirt, absorbed every smell, and stained if you looked at it wrong. One spilled coffee and your $1,000 seats were ruined forever. It was high-maintenance nightmare fuel that nobody missed when it disappeared. Asbestos insulation was actually used in cars for decades. They packed it around engines, in brake pads, and even in some interior panels for soundproofing. Turns out filling your car with a known carcinogen was a terrible idea. Who knew? Once the health risks became undeniable, asbestos got yanked from vehicles faster than you can say lawsuit. Good riddance to literal death fibers. Plain metal dashboards were standard in early automobiles. Just bare painted steel right in front of your face. In a crash, your head would meet unforgiving metal at high speed. Even minor accidents turned into major injuries because there was zero give in the materials. The invention of padded dashboards saved countless lives and made that hard metal interior a relic of a more dangerous time. Bakelite, everything came next. This early plastic was revolutionary in the 1930s and 40s, so manufacturers put it everywhere. Steering wheels, knobs, handles, trim pieces. The problem with Bakelite is that it's incredibly brittle. It cracks, chips, and shatters with age and impact. Plus, it only came in a few dark colors that made interiors look dreary. Modern plastics that don't explode into shards replaced it, thankfully. Rubber floor mats that were smooth and flat seemed like a practical choice. Easy to clean, waterproof, durable. Except they were also incredibly slippery when wet. Imagine getting in your car with snowy boots and having your foot slide right off the brake pedal. Now, these flat mats were accident magnets. Textured and ribbed rubber mats with actual grip became the standard for obvious reasons. Horsehair seat padding was the original seat stuffing before foam existed, literally hair from horses packed into your seats. It compressed unevenly, got lumpy over time, attracted bugs, and if it got wet, it smelled like a stable. Sitting on a damp horsehair seat in summer was a special kind of torture. Synthetic foams that actually kept their shape and didn't smell like animals replaced this organic nightmare. Clear plastic seat covers were something your grandparents probably had. The logic was protecting the actual upholstery underneath from wear and stains. The reality was sitting on sticky plastic that made you sweat, stuck to your skin, and crinkled loudly every time you moved. You preserved seats you never actually got to enjoy. People finally realized this defeated the entire purpose of having nice seats. Thin headliners made of cardboard and fabric seemed adequate until they weren't. These sagged constantly, especially in humid climates. You'd be driving along and suddenly the roofliner was drooping onto your head like a fabric avalanche. Water damage, age, and heat made them detach and look awful. Modern composite headliners with proper adhesion solved this droopy ceiling problem. Chrome everything defined 50s and 60s car interiors. Chrome trim, chrome knobs, chrome handles, chrome accents on every surface. It looked flashy when new but showed every fingerprint, smudge, and scratch. In summer, that chrome got hot enough to brand your skin. In winter, it was ice cold. Plus, all that reflective surface created dangerous glare. Brushed metals and plastics took over for good reason. Cotton and cloth door panels without moisture barriers soaked up rain and humidity like sponges. If water got past your window seals, those door panels absorbed it and stayed damp forever. This led to mold, mildew, rust in the door frame, and that musty smell that never went away. Water-resistant materials and proper vapor barriers finally solved the moldy door problem. Ivory or bone inlays in luxury cars were the ultimate status symbol in vintage vehicles. Real ivory trim pieces and accents showed extreme wealth. Beyond the ethical issues of using elephant tusks, ivory yellows badly with age, cracks easily, and requires constant maintenance. While modern synthetic alternatives look identical without the baggage of endangered species. Leather that wasn't treated properly was common in budget vehicles trying to offer leather interiors cheaply. This stuff dried out, cracked, and deteriorated within a few years. It absorbed stains permanently and faded into ugly, blotchy patterns. Quality-treated leather costs more, but actually lasts, so the cheap, untreated stuff thankfully vanished from the market. Woven cane or wicker inserts appeared in some quirky economy cars trying to look exotic or tropical. Cane seatbacks and door panel accents might seem charming until they start breaking, splintering, and poking you. They also trapped dirt in the weave and were impossible to clean properly. This material belonged in patio furniture, not car interiors. On steel springs, poking through seats was actually acceptable at one point. Early seat construction was so basic that feeling springs through the upholstery was just normal. Uncomfortable, dangerous if one broke through completely, and absolutely unacceptable by modern standards. Proper padding layers and better construction methods ended the era of spring poker seats. Tar-based sound deadening was slathered throughout vintage cars to reduce noise. This sticky black tar compound worked okay when new but degraded into a gooey mess over time. It dripped in heat, hardened and cracked in cold, and added significant weight to the vehicle. Modern spray foam and butyl-based products work better without the mess. Celluloid was an early plastic used for interior trim pieces and knobs. Here's the fun part. Celluloid is extremely flammable. As in, it can ignite from friction or heat and burns intensely. Having highly flammable materials throughout your interior, next to cigarette lighters and ashtrays, was predictably problematic. Safer plastics replaced this fire hazard quickly. Kapok fiber padding came from tropical trees and was used as insulation and padding. It's naturally buoyant, which is great for life jackets but pointless in cars. Kapok compressed permanently, didn't provide much cushioning, and was labor-intensive to harvest and process. Synthetic alternatives performed better in every measurable way. Cardboard door map pockets seemed practical for storing maps and documents. Just cardboard pockets attached to doors. They absorbed moisture, collapsed under weight, ripped easily, and looked cheap. Molded plastic storage bins and pockets were more durable and actually held things without disintegrating. Cloth sun visors without any stiffening flopped around uselessly. They were literally just fabric flaps that hung down limply and didn't stay where you positioned them. Trying to block sun with a floppy cloth was an exercise in frustration. Rigid core sun visors that actually stayed in place became standard equipment. Shellac coatings on wood trim were used before better sealants existed. Shellac is made from insect secretions and creates a decent finish until it encounters heat or alcohol. Then it turns white, gets sticky, and dissolves. Car interiors get hot and people spill drinks, so shellac coatings failed constantly. Polyurethane and lacquer finishes proved far more durable. Jute backing on carpets was natural fiber matting under the carpet pile. Jute is biodegradable, which sounds eco-friendly until it starts decomposing in your car from moisture exposure. It rotted, smelled terrible, and fell apart. Synthetic backing materials don't rot and last the lifetime of the vehicle. Thin vinyl seats with no backing tore incredibly easily. These cheap seats were in economy cars and split open from normal use within months. The vinyl wasn't laminated to anything substantial, so any pressure point became a tear point. Properly backed and reinforced vinyl actually holds up to use and abuse. Phenolic resin knobs were hard, brittle, and cracked from temperature changes. They looked okay but felt cheap and broke if you gripped them too hard while turning. So the material couldn't handle the constant thermal cycling of car interiors. Modern rubber compounds and better plastics made controls that don't shatter in your hand. Finally, radium-painted gauges and switches were actually a thing. Radioactive radium made instrument clusters glow in the dark, which seemed futuristic and cool. Except you were being exposed to radiation every time you drove. The health hazards became apparent, and radioactive materials in passenger compartments were banned. Probably for the best. So there you have 25 pointless car interior materials that manufacturers abandoned for very good reasons. From literal poison to stuff that just made driving miserable, the automotive industry learned through trial and error what doesn't belong inside a vehicle. Modern cars benefit from decades of lessons learned the hard way. If you enjoyed this trip through automotive material failures, make sure you're subscribed and hit that notification bell so you never miss our next video. The crazy thing about all these materials is that they weren't chosen because designers were trying to make cars worse. At the time, these were genuinely considered the best available options. Manufacturers thought they were innovating, pushing boundaries, creating comfort and luxury with what technology could offer them. The vinyl wood grain looked impressive in showrooms. The chrome gleamed under dealership lights. The asbestos seemed like brilliant thermal insulation. Engineers and designers believed in these choices, at least for a moment. What's fascinating is how quickly these materials fell out of favor once problems became undeniable. It wasn't a slow, gradual transition for many of them. Once word spread about health risks or durability issues or safety concerns, these materials disappeared almost overnight. Liability issues played a huge role too. Lawsuits from asbestos exposure forced manufacturers to eliminate it completely. The promise of injury from unpadded dashboards led to federal regulations requiring crash protection. Market pressure and legal pressure combined to accelerate the death of bad materials. The evolution of car interiors really mirrors the evolution of consumer expectations. We became smarter about what we wanted. We demanded durability. We required safety features. We expected materials that wouldn't degrade within a few years. The car companies had to adapt or lose sales to competitors who offered better interiors. This competitive pressure drove innovation in better plastics, better padding, better adhesives, and better construction methods overall. Today's car interiors are remarkable when you consider where we started. You've got climate-controlled seats, ambient lighting, soft touch materials that actually feel premium, storage solutions that work, upholstery that resists stains, and safety features integrated throughout. The dashboard has airbags hidden behind soft padded panels. The steering wheel adjusts in multiple directions. The seats adjust in seemingly infinite ways. Sunroofs have proper shades. Door panels seal against water intrusion. It's genuinely impressive progress. But here's the thing that keeps me up at night as I think about all this. What materials are we using right now that future generations will look back on and say we're completely insane? What are we putting in cars today that in 20 or 30 years will seem as ridiculous as radiation-painted gauges? Are there synthetic materials we're using that might have unforeseen health consequences? Are we choosing materials because they look good in a showroom but won't hold up long-term? Is planned obsolescence built into modern car interiors where they're designed to fail after a certain period? We might be putting things in cars right now that we think are safe but haven't been thoroughly studied long-term. Maybe certain plastics release chemicals under heat that we haven't fully understood yet. Maybe the adhesives holding modern interiors together have environmental impacts we're ignoring. Maybe the synthetics we celebrate for being better than natural materials are actually worse in ways we haven't discovered. It's sobering to think that we're probably repeating the same pattern our grandparents did, just with different materials. The material choices in cars also reflect broader societal issues. We wanted cheaper cars, so we cut corners on interior materials. We wanted flashy designs, so we added chrome and fake wood paneling. We wanted to seem wealthy, so we used materials like real ivory without considering the impact. We were obsessed with innovation, so we adopted asbestos before understanding what it did. Every bad interior material choice was also a reflection of what we valued or didn't value at that moment in time. This also makes you appreciate manufacturers who actually get it right from the start. Some luxury brands have maintained standards for decades because they refuse to compromise on material quality. You see interiors that are 40 years old that still look respectable because they were built with materials that age gracefully. Meanwhile, economy cars from the same era have interiors that look like they're disintegrating because cheaper materials were chosen to hit a price point. The fact that we're still learning about material science is humbling. We thought we understood asbestos. We thought we understood lead paint. We thought we understood 1,000 things that turned out to have serious problems. With cars specifically, we're talking about an enclosed space where you spend considerable time breathing the air, touching surfaces, and being exposed to temperature fluctuations. That environment is actually pretty harsh on materials and pretty intimate for human exposure. If you're ever looking at a vintage car or a classic vehicle, pay attention to the interior materials. See which ones have held up and which ones haven't. The ones that still look decent are the materials that actually worked. The ones that are cracking, peeling, fading, or falling apart are the cautionary tales. Your car's interior is actually a museum of material science experiments, some successful and some spectacular failures. The automotive industry's willingness to abandon these materials is also worth celebrating. Unlike some industries that cling to tradition even when better options exist, car manufacturers have generally been willing to evolve. When cushioning technology improved, they stopped using horsehair. But when adhesives got better, they solved the sagging headliner problem. When they realized their customers wanted water-resistant doors, they implemented solutions. This adaptability has made cars genuinely safer and more comfortable. So when you're sitting in your modern car enjoying the soft touch dashboard, the properly padded steering wheel, the seats that actually last more than a few years, and the interior that doesn't contain any known carcinogens, take a moment to appreciate how far we've come. Your car's interior represents decades of accumulated knowledge about what works and what doesn't. It's the result of countless mistakes, lawsuits, regulatory changes, and consumer feedback all combined into one hopefully functional space. Thanks so much for watching this journey through automotive interior material failures with us. These videos take time and research to put together, and it means the world that you spent this time watching. If you found this interesting or learned something new about car history, please do hit that like button. It helps other people discover this content and supports what we're doing here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now's the perfect time to join our channel. We're constantly exploring weird and wild aspects of automotive history and design. Every week we bring you stories about the strange choices manufacturers made, the bizarre features that came and went, and the fascinating evolution of cars throughout history. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss when we upload our next video.